Welcome to the Portugal Chronicle podcast. Compelling stories, interesting places, real people. And now your hosts, Mafalda Costa and Tracy Dynasson. Bem-vindos ao podcast da Portugal Chronicle. Histórias fascinantes, sítios interessantes, pessoas reais. E agora as vossas apresentadoras Mafalda Costa e Tracy Dynasson.
And welcome to the Portugal Chronicle. I am Tracy Dynasson, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Mafalda Costa. And I also am here with Jason Dynasson, who is my partner in crime. And this is also really his beast, I guess you would say. Welcome, and I want to just give you an introduction to what we're thinking about doing, what the whole purpose of Portugal Chronicle is. We're going to talk about that as a group, and we're going to talk about our backgrounds and what kind of brings us to the table here. So, as far as the Portugal Chronicle, our hope is to be able to tell compelling stories about the people and the interesting places that surround us here in North Portugal in particular to start with. The idea is for you to really get to know the authentic Portugal, not the one that's through influencers or that's also been filtered or paid for by external companies, I guess you could say. The idea really is to find people who are doing interesting things and tell their stories. So that we can actually help you understand a little bit more about the culture of what we found here in our new home in northern Portugal, but also with the knowledge that though this is our new home, we are not Portuguese. And so there's going to be a cultural filter that we are not ever going to get ourselves as immigrants. And there will also be a part of the community that won't be accessible to us in the same ways as it would be to someone who is Portuguese. And that brings us to my wonderful colleague, Mafalda Costa. We met teaching English together, but you have a long history of telling stories, and this is your passion. So what brings you to agree to this harebrained scheme?
Yeah, so I've always been passionate about telling stories. Initially, I did that through music, but then I decided to go into journalism. So I did my degree. I finished it a couple of years back. And yeah, I think everything aligned. It was just the prospect of writing stories here in Guimarães and writing them in English, which is something that I'm used to since I studied abroad. So everything just made sense. And yeah, we're really excited about telling stories about real Portuguese people, creating interesting content. And doing it in English, maybe to inform people that are not in Portugal, but also to allow people that are here to practice their English.
Well, and we also recognize, right, we've talked about this too, that if we're doing interviews with somebody and they're more comfortable in Portuguese, that interview will be in Portuguese and we will subtitle it for you because we think that that's important as well. So, this whole idea of bilingualism, I think, will be interesting as things evolve because it depends on who we're talking to and what story we're telling. And I think that that's going to be very interesting as we move forward. So we're starting with a lot of cultural activity in Guimarães and in Braga in particular, in the north of Portugal. But we can expand. We're thinking of expanding in different types of projects in particular to do special topics and do special investigations as well to the interesting things that are happening around. But this is all the brainchild of Jason, who's sitting here next to me. For those of you who don't know, I come from higher education and from teaching. I am not a journalist by trade, but I am somebody who is highly interested and done a lot of research in intercultural communication and the idea of mediating cultures and understanding culture. So we'll do some of that analysis sometimes when we're having our conversations to try and get down to, we see this at surface level, but what's actually going on underneath? What do we need to know? Because there are a lot of unwritten rules in culture and things you're just expected to understand. And so I think that will be interesting for us to explore. But Jason, why don't you talk to us about what you were seeing and what you thought we needed to have as a part of the Portugal Chronicle and what kind of space we're trying to fill?
Yeah, well, this idea hit me in the fall, so probably 6 months ago or so. And originally, my idea was soccer, football, doing play by play of soccer in English, like La Liga games or whatever. Then I realized that would probably be a lot of money to like try to get the broadcast rights for something like that. So it's like maybe we need to reevaluate what the idea is here. But there's a lot of English speakers in Portugal, about 10,000 Americans. And I don't know how many British people, but probably more than the number of Americans. And there's Canadian and South African, English speakers who want to have content in Portugal, produced in Portugal, in English. And then also talking to Portuguese people, though, and finding out that they like to consume content in English. Like they seek out Netflix shows, for example, in English because they want to improve their English skills. And so then I got this idea that, well, maybe we could provide something of use to all of those parties, basically all of those people. And so that is what hatched the idea of Portugal Chronicle is let's cover the things that are happening in our area in English to provide something for people, the English speakers here, the people in other countries who are interested in Portugal, and then the Portuguese people who want to consume content in English. They can consume content in English that's actually produced in Portugal. And that's how this came about. And it's kind of fate, I feel, that Tracy and Mafalda came together, and suddenly we really started going through what the ideas for this are, and here we are.
Well, I mean, you have a news background and a radio background, so you've got the communications as well as Mafalda. But we knew that with your language skills and also demeanor, sending you out someplace to cover some of these things was not going to be easy at the moment, right? So moving along, but also that the things that I found or that we see that are really interesting that are happening are well beyond La Liga and football, right? I mean, that's an interesting way to kind of access culture, but what we're finding is that's one small itty bitty piece of what's actually going on around us. And a lot of the things that I find the most interesting or that we see that we're covering are things that I think if you miss them, you're missing a valuable opportunity. But it's also something new and or something that's going on within a certain city that adds to the character and of the city itself, so you can kind of understand the place. But people are doing some really interesting things, particularly in the cultural sphere. And we've got several events lined up to cover. Mafalda's going to be going out and doing lots of interviews. She just finished interviews on the weekend. And so we've got stories coming up. Yeah. So, what are some of the things that we have in the pipeline, Mafalda? What are the things that we've been working on and that we're planning? And what have you just seen?
Yeah, okay. So there are lots of events coming up, especially in Guimarães, Braga. This weekend, we just covered Gerador Uncover, the festival. It was really interesting. We'll be talking about it soon. For the next couple of weeks, we are going to be talking about Centrar in Braga. Also, doing some interviews with some interesting people here in Guimarães. And we'll also be covering Westway Lab in April. We're really excited about that. Yeah, so those are the plans for now, but we'll be talking about it soon, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we have all kinds of exciting events going on. I mean, particularly when you're looking at Braga's declared this year, 2025, the year of culture. It will be the city of culture in Portugal. That's what they said. And Guimarães has always some interesting events. It always has something going on in the art and theater sphere, but also the environmental impact and architecture, all of these other things. So it's very interesting to learn about how all of these elements come together to engage the community in conversations. So I think we have some exciting things coming up. We will be going out and doing some interviews as well. I have to tell you that I'm working on my Portuñol. Mafalda knows this, but to kind of get some information from people, but having conversations with those that are engaged in community, may have been here for a long time. We live in Povo de Lanoso, which is the home of Maria de Fonte, who is an important historical figure. So there are some new events coming up related to her. So we're going to give you some history and cultural lessons from our side as well. So with that, welcome to the Portugal Chronicle, and we've got quite the adventure underway, and we will be bringing you new information weekly.
Thanks for listening to the Portugal Chronicle podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on social media. Obrigada por ouvirem o podcast da Portugal Chronicle. Certifiquem-se de subscrever e de seguir as nossas redes sociais.